Have a look, Jay. Okay.
You stinky lads.
Could you just turn the lights out and have a look?
Yeah, well, that'll be great. Sorry. The safety lights.
Put me in a grenade in this kid.
Then do you want to show your film first?
Yeah, I think we could, or else what would you usually,
We'll show the film first.
I think it's useful.
You'll find that they'll ask you questions.
Yeah, I think showing the film stimulates questions.
That's right, then they'll ask the questions and then it'll just carry on you there, you know.
Yeah.
And you bought your models, some models.
I brought some models and I brought some drawings.
You don't want them to handle those, do you?
Preferably not, because they're very fragile.
You don't want me to auction them off?
Oh, God. I'm trying to retrieve. I had to cannibalize a lot of them, and I regret it now because
They're irreplaceable, really, aren't
I've had several. Most of my good models are in Munich.
they? Are they?
I had an exhibition in Frankfurt for 2 months, and I had to send them all over. Now it's going to open in Munich February, middle of February.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, would you prepare to receive the guests of the evening? Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome the staff of Duran Film Services, please, the hard-working staff of Duran Film Services. Put your hands together, please, for the staff. Now, ladies and gentlemen, a very special person within the company, the director, Mr. Jed Jones, and he will be accompanied this evening by the founder of the convention here in Blackpool, Mr. Les Siddle and his lady Frances. So, nice round of applause for them. Please, here they come. Jolly good. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, please, Mr. Derek Simmons, Managing Director of Duran Film Services, and his lady, Mrs. Anne Simmons, accompanied by the guest of honour, Mr. Ray Harryhausen. Would you put your hands together for all? Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. Thank you so much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this, the 12th Northern Collectors Film Convention, which you can see is more successful than ever. We're out around the hotel. I particularly welcome our guest of honour, Mr. Ray Harryhausen, who I'm sure you're going to enjoy after you've had your meal. So please enjoy your meal, and thank you all for coming along. Thank you.
Noticed that you've been a bit of a bad lad the last few days or so. So we thought on this auspicious occasion we would take down a few particulars of our own for you, sir, because we understand you're having a birthday, and I think the seriousness of this offence warrants the help of one of my colleagues. So I will ask, could I have some assistance in here just for a moment, please? Are you there, my dear? Ah, yes. Here's my young friend. That's it, yes. You stop shaking, it's all right. So, now then, my dear, this is the gentleman we have to do this on. I wonder, could we take down a few particulars for him, do you think, my dear, if that would oblige? Thank you so much indeed. Here we are, sir. Happy birthday to you. And I suggest you have a nice big kiss. Not from me, from her. Lovely, lovely. Thank you. I would just point out that your ears have gone a little bit. No, we do have all these lovely people taking photographs and cameras over here filming videos, but we do happen to have the news of the world with us tonight. And they said, now, would we get a photograph for the Sunday supplement? So we said, by all means, you see. So if I could just ask you to look down here at the photographer just for one moment, and a big smile, that's lovely. There we are. Now then, sir, I'm afraid we have a summons to serve on you, and it reads as follows. John, surprise, surprise, you're in our sights with warmest greetings from our lights. A message from your friends is sent with words and deeds of good intent. Good luck and best wishes we wish to say to you upon your special day. In fact, we think you're stupendous, fantastic, and tremendous. And although this is your special day, your kindness shouldn't falter, because the drinks are now on you, we say. Yeah, and we'll have a scotch and water. Right. And this is a happy birthday, and it's with love and kind regards from the directors and staff of Durand Film Services. So there we are, sir. You hold on to your throat for 1 moment.
We could be lost for days in this desolation.
Look!
Yes, I brought along some of the models. This is the actual model of the baboon you saw that we used in the film. Some of the models have deteriorated, and I had to make substitutes because they're made of rubber, most of them, and they deteriorate very rapidly after they're once used. But this particular model will move in any position. He has the same number of joints as a real baboon would have. And he's covered with a fur and rubber material. He can blink, he can breathe, he can do almost anything. And because you know it's very difficult to train a baboon. A lot of people thought he was a real baboon, but they're almost untrainable because they're very belligerent. And so if you can't find a talented baboon, you have to make one. Artificially. There are not too many talented baboons around. We had the same problem with the crab. In the second excerpt you saw, we had a scene where we had a giant crab coming out of the sand, and you can't find again a talented crab that'll do everything you want. Some of the close-ups we used a real crab, a live one, for the mouth opening and closing. And then, of course, that evening we all had a nice feast and actors. Very ignoble of us, I'm sure. We didn't show excerpts of The First Men in the Moon, but this was one of the ant creatures. Again, he is all jointed and animated in the same way. Each frame of film you have to change his position. I can't move him now because rigor mortis is set in. He deteriorates and falls to bits every time you touch him. And I also brought along one of the skeletons. This is the actual skeleton. We had 7 of them. And again, I can demonstrate that he is completely jointed, and you can place him in any position. And you have to synchronize the movement so that it gives the impression that he's acting out a particular role he's supposed to perform. And a lot of people are quite amazed that he's so small, because on the screen, of course, they look life-size. And he's one of the survivors. I think I have about 3 left. They took the form of other things. I have to cannibalize them sometime. We're in a hurry for a character, and I rob Peter to pay Paul, and sometimes I regret it. This, again, is made from the actual model, the moles of Collie. And she was this size. This is a fiberglass reproduction, but it's made from the same molds. But again, it gives you an idea of the size of the model. She was completely jointed. We had to synchronize all her movements so that they would coordinate with the actors, which took quite a considerable time during production. We actually tied 3 stuntmen together with a very big belt to perform the different arms, because the actors had to have eye lines as to where to place their swords. And it's very much arranged like a ballet. You have to do it by counts, so that when you shoot the final scene, the stuntmen are not there, and the actor has to shadow box. He has to perform by himself. Many times he feels like such a fool he'd break down and cry. And those are about the extent of the characters we have this evening. Perhaps someone has a question they would like to ask. I'm in the mood to reveal all. Yes?
Obviously, all of us in our job of work from time to time will have a bad day. And surely there's been occasions when you sat down to see the rushes that probably only for a month's work and you thought, that's not quite how I wanted it. Have you had to cannibalize any shots?
Retakes me.
Yes, you've not been 100% satisfied.
Oh, many times you're not, yes. Well, a lot of things can go wrong. When the telephone rings, for example, and you're animating 6 arms and you go to answer the telephone, when you come back, you're not quite sure which arm is going up and which arm is going down. So if you see a jerk on the screen, you know I answered the telephone, which I shouldn't do. But it takes a lot of concentration. That's why I like to work alone many times, most of the time. Because any distraction, particularly with someone like Medusa, where she had 12 snakes in her hair, and each frame of film you have to move the head and the tail of the snakes, as well as her eyes and her mouth and her arms, and shooting an arrow and rattling her tail. So it's almost like rubbing your head and your stomach at the same time. But one tries to have a minimum of retakes, because retakes take time. Sometimes you can only average maybe 20 feet a day. On the skeleton sequence, when I had 7 skeletons all moving, I had to, I could only get 13 frames a day, because you have a head, 2 arms, and 2 legs, plus synchronizing it with the actors. And of course the accountants get very upset because the dollar signs start to build. So we try to avoid too many of those type of shots. I would say about 90%, 95% are the first takes. And many times when you see your picture later, particularly years later, you say, my God, I wish I had taken a little more time with that and retaken it. But unfortunately, motion pictures, it's an economical problem, and you have so much time to do a shot. We usually have about 300 or 400 shots to do of a special effect nature. And if you try to perfect each shot, I would still be animating on Clash of the Titans. But sometimes you have to let things go through that you can get by with doing certain cuts by injecting a close-up or something. But we do prefer perfection, but it's not always possible.
What was the production time of Castle like, and how long did it take?
For the actual live action or the animation? Well, we had a preparation time of about almost a year. We originally started it with Columbia Pictures, and when we budgeted the film, we tried to make it as important as possible. The budget got so high that Columbia bowed out, and so we had to look for new backing. So that took some time, but all in all, it was about 3 years. It was about 14 months in the animation and the special effect work. And I was telling a friend the other day about the irony of the whole thing of so-called progress. The thing that held us up mostly was we couldn't get steady sprocket holes. A simple thing like that can defeat your whole shooting schedule. And we found that we got jiggles in between our double exposures. As you know, if your sprocket holes aren't accurately punched in the film, when you try to make a double exposure, the film rides and separates, and you can see where the matte line is. And that's disastrous in this type of film. And we had a month of trying to trace down what the problem was. And the labs and Eastman Kodak would blame my equipment, and I would blame the labs, and then they would blame Eastman Kodak. And it took us a month, over a month, to sort it out. And it finally boiled down, which we had to prove visually, that the punches, the sprocket holes were not accurate. And a lot of companies now have to punch their own film because Eastman Kodak claims sometimes that they only make films for normal pictures and not for special effects. And you never see it unless you try to make a double exposure. But companies like ILM and some of the other people who do a lot of multiple exposures end up by punching their own film because a simple thing, back in 1933, King Kong had the most accurate sprocket holes that you could want. You seldom ever saw a movement between the double exposures, and they had sometimes 8 exposures on a piece of film. So you wonder sometimes if it is progress.
How old was you when you worked on Kong?
I never worked on Kong. I always get identified with it.
You are noted to have been trained by Will O'Brien.
Yes, well, King Kong set me on my career.
So did you work on the Summer Kong?
No, I'm afraid I didn't. I was just a kid at that time. I would be about 85, I think, if I had.
Oh, you can be that old. You are noted to have been trained by Will O'Brien, is that?
Yes, well, I was a great fan of his, and I innocently walked into Grauman's Chinese Theater in 1933 to see a picture called King Kong, and I haven't been the same since. So that shows how a film can affect you. So I made it my business to contact Mr. O'Brien after I found out how it was done, and I showed him some models. It developed into a hobby, and after school I would make little models of cave bears and various things, dinosaurs, in clay. And I showed him some of my models, and he encouraged me very much. He was making War Eagles at MGM at the time, and that was a film that was never completed, of course. And then when he made Mighty Joe Young, he started Mighty Joe Young in 1945, the late 1945. I had the great pleasure of being his assistant, and I worked with him throughout the whole picture.
With regards to Mighty Joe Young, that was the kinder version of King Kong.
You could say it kinder. They called it King Kong for children.
Well, it was a lovely picture.
Yeah, it has a certain charm over the years, but it, again, was slightly tongue-in-cheek. And I've never believed that these type of pictures should be made with their tongue-in-cheek.
No, but the animation, again, was very much in the King Kong style.
Yes.
If you used to run 2 screens around King Kong and run Mighty Joe Young, you would turn around and say, from the same school.
Yeah, well it is.
What noted with it?
It was the gorilla of my dreams.
It was brilliant.
But Willis O'Brien and Mary Cooper, of course, made King Kong, and Willis O'Brien made The Lost World. Some of you may have copies of the Lost World. Well, Irwin Allen did remake it with live lizards, but it wasn't the same. I'd like to remake it. Al Whitlock wanted to remake it at Universal, and we couldn't. He couldn't get any money for it. Nobody was interested.
Well, I got the money, as I'll be with you.
Okay. I hope you have an oil well. Yeah.
Visible creature, but in the 7th voyage, when you have the Cyclops and you have the close-ups, it's all animation.
Oh yeah.
Now, what decided you to, when you cut to close-ups, you know the what I mean, the malformed creature that the hero fought. When you get the close-ups, it's a human person.
Oh, you mean the, in Clash of the Titans, you mean the Centaur character with
yes, I couldn't think of the name.
Yeah, his name was Calabos.
That's right.
Yeah.
Calabos. What decided you to use a real person? Because it must have presented problems to match up with the animation of the human.
Yes, it was a problem. Originally, he was supposed to be all animated, close-ups and all. And he was supposed to have been a mute with no dialogue. And after we started rewriting the screenplay, we decided that he couldn't just go through such a long sequence without just grunting and groaning, you know. So a lip sync is very difficult for characters like that in animation. So we decided to, I modeled the miniature creature first, and then we had Colin Arthur make a mask to resemble the miniature creature, and we intercut it with live action. Most people aren't too aware, but people who are interested in the technicalities of filmmaking are far more aware of it than the average person usually accepts it. But today people are much more critical, and it's more difficult to do today than it was a number of years ago.
In Clash of the Titans and the sequence we've seen tonight from Medusa,
yes,
it obviously relies heavily on the way that the shadows and the lighting on the miniature work as well. How long would that have taken to complete it, that sequence that we've seen tonight?
Well, it was a short, comparatively short sequence. That took about 2 months of animation, 2 or 3 months. Because you had a great many things going. You had a live action arrow that you had to match with the movements. And you had, of course, the flickering of the lights had to be done in animation to match the background, so that it looked like one shot instead of something superimposed. And all those little details take a long time. And the original Medusa, of course, in Greek mythology has flowing robes. Well, as you can imagine, it would be very difficult to animate lacy flowing robes, and so we decided to design her with a snake's body, which eliminated that problem. Then we gave her a bow and arrow so that we could get some sound effects and some menace in it. And then we also gave her a rattlesnake's tail so that we could make the sound effect department work for her.
Are you making anything at the moment?
No, I'm not. I'm doing bronzes. I've been making bronze castings of many of the characters, and there's a lot of them deteriorate, as I said before, and some of them are in a museum now. Most of my work is in Frankfurt, and it'll be going to the new Museum of Moving Images in London the end of next year, where there'll be a 2 or 3 months exhibit of most of the characters, my drawings, and a history of this type of animation. I think that's all for this evening. I think we're running over time. Thank you.
Okay, I think you'll agree that we've had a really superb night's entertainment. Thanks to Ray here. It's midnight, yes, we, as usual, have overrun. Thank you all very, very much Hope you enjoyed it. We look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Please, another round of applause for Ray.
No! Hey, I tell you what. Smile. How long do you say it should be? Don't put it all the way open.
About that, that's 1935.
Somebody actually made a try to get
to get to there's quite a few another flying west then. There's only one from Scotland. Give away Friday. Oh yes.
Except December, because that's when we have them done on that sale.
So, I do apologise. Would you turn around? You're going on the field. Right now. Who's these? $9.50, $11.50. Yeah.
Remiss of me not to get these out.
Right. Okay, where we go? Right, the first one, okay, is Pathology's Review of 1965. This is the 200 footer we put out when Bob Dan was walkers here. Very good condition, £6. Anybody? Pathology Review, 65, collar, £6. Anybody? No? Yes, £6. Any fans on 6? 7. Any fans on 7? Going? You got it, £7. Who has it? The 3x400 foot Clash of the Titans with the very elusive part 1. It's in excellent condition, it's as brand new in original boxes, £80. Clash of the Titans, £80. Anybody?